My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everybody, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today I'm here with Dr. David Bilstrom. And he is a quadruple board certified MD and a medical director of International Autoimmune Institute. Dr. David has helped thousands of chronically ill patients reverse autoimmune disease, which the science data says also prevents future disease because he treats the root cause. He spent almost 30 years striving to treat people using protocols that don't create more disease. Dr. David is a functional medicine expert who is passionate about helping kids reset their epigenetics before age of 19 to prevent chronic disease and helping kids and adults optimize their epigenetics to improve the health of their next 6 to 8 generations, which is amazing. Because of old age is a myth, and until you reach 90 years of age, it's not such a thrill thing. Prevention is much easier than the traditional medical industry leads people to believe. So a big welcome to the show, Dr. David, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it as well.
So I guess we start with that. I feel a lot of people wouldn't know what epigenetics is. Did you want to explain a little bit of how that works and how that shows up when you're working with your patients?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we used to think that our genes, so our DNA is in our cells. The DNA tells the cells what to do. Well, DNA is just long strands of genes that basically tell the cells what to do, tell our body what to do. So we used to think that our genes were hardwired. Whatever we got good, bad, otherwise, from parents, grandparents. And you kind of look at your parents and grandparents, you might say, geez, they got some health issues. I hope I got their good genes and not their bad genes. Well, it turns out that it's not what genes you have, it's actually which ones get turned on and turned off. So this is epigenetics, the things that change and influence gene expression without actually changing the genetic code. So we all have tons of bad genes, every cell in our body, tons of good genes in every cell in our body. Well, it turns out that if we start developing health issues, it's because you've turned on bad genes and started turning off good genes in every cell in the body at the same time. So it's one of the reasons why it's so easy when you start getting health issues to kind of get like, well, Jesus, one thing, and then after another, after another, after another, you're like, holy cow, how can all this stuff sort of be off at the same time? Well, it's because every cell in the body is being told the wrong information. And so ideally, we want to put the body in a position so that bad ones are turned off, good ones are turned on, we stay really healthy. And if though you start shifting, turning on the bad ones, turning off the good ones, well, this is a big reason why you're not feeling well. There's a big reason why potentially every organ system in the body can be affected at the same time. But this is also a great way to reverse chronic disease, because when you use things that work through epigenetics, you're really fixing everything at the same time. Or if you're trying to maintain health, you get the body in a position where you've really taken care of this epigenetic stuff. Well, that's a great way to stay healthy. Like you mentioned, if you do it before age 19, people just don't get stuff as an adult because you lock their epigenetics in place at a young age. And if you do this before somebody conceives a child, you've optimized their epigenetics before conceiving a child. Well, you've now passed down cleaner genes to the next 6 to 8 generations. The corollary is we're the product of the previous 6 to 8 generations. So if they've kind of had things happen that's thrown their epigenetics off, and you can say, well, if they got a health issue, their epigenetics has shifted. Crud, look what I got stuck with. It's like, no, you're not stuck with it. It's not what genes you have. It's which ones get turned on and turned off. And it is actually not as hard as it might seem to actually optimize epigenetics.
Yeah, and I didn't realize the 19-year-old threshold. until you started sharing about that, which is so interesting because we go through so much up to that point too. And then that's always considered, you start stepping into adulthood, and the fact that it links so much with, okay, you have until you're 19 to kind of reverse these things early before it becomes more chronic, I feel is like a really important reminder, as a parent too, that we need to do that work for ourselves, but also with our children to ensure that they don't end up with lifelong diseases, which you can still reverse, like you were saying, but it gets much harder once it's established in a pattern and the body's so used to expressing that epigenetic pattern.
I think it's so empowering to know that, this is kind of how things happen, but that we can fix it versus, what a lot of people is like, geez, I'm just going to kind of cross my fingers and hope I don't get things. It's actually, you can do something to actually prevent stuff before it even happens.
And I love too that when you work on yourself, you're reversing all the damage done for 6 to 8 generations, because it's so often, and even I've had clients from a healer's perspective, and they'll go, why has this shown up in me? Why is my mum okay? My sister's okay, but I get everything from my grandmother, or I get everything from my great grandmother. And your explanation of that is so perfect, because it's like we go through different circumstances and we have different situations, and that will also turn on or turn off those different cells in your body, making the good appear or the bad appear, whatever pattern ends up showing up, like you said. And then it creates a cascade effect where your body's so busy fighting and putting that energy into the first thing, then the next thing gets turned on, the next thing gets turned on.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess, what pulled you to functional medicine, and how did you fall into autoimmune disease as well?
Well, originally, I'm a rehabilitation specialist. So my original area of subspecialty was spinal cord injury rehabilitation. So everybody that I would be taking care of was paralyzed from the waist down, the neck down, basically in wheelchairs and all this kind of stuff, including you being just south of Sydney. I was actually the uh, team physician for the United States wheelchair basketball team when the men's team came to Sydney 2 years before the Olympics for the World Championships. U.S. won the title, last second shot over the Netherlands. Um, but this is a population that every organ system's impacted. They're very sensitive to medication side effects. There's just a lot of medicines that there are no medicines for a lot of the stuff they have, and every body part's affected. So I kept saying, well, geez, wouldn't it be lovely if there's something out there that I didn't learn in my traditional training that could help these people? And wouldn't it be lovely if this thing didn't have side effects? That would be just fantastic. Um, well, acupuncture kept popping up as something that could help every organ system with no side effects. And so I trained out of University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, and I brought it back to my hospital. And it wasn't just for my patients, but I had 12 different partners, and we would all take care of the people that were like, nobody else can take care of. Geez, we don't know what to do with somebody. Let's send them into rehab. But then we didn't have any options if we couldn't help them like we wanted to. And oh my gosh, that acupuncture worked so much better than I thought it would. And pretty quick, I was doing like 100 acupuncture treatments a week. And oh my gosh, it was fantastic. How did I never learn this in my traditional training? Well, then it got me thinking, well, what else is out there that I didn't learn in my traditional training? And wow, was there a lot of stuff, right? Fantastic stuff. And so much stuff that didn't have any side effects. And so I just, had been on a 3-decade journey to learn. Inherently, there's this epidemic of autoimmune disease where the body actually starts attacking itself. Now we have all the classic autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, multiple sclerosis, these kind of things. But we now know that autoimmune disruption, immune system disruption plays a part in so many health issues that we didn't think it did before. Like 70% of all autism is one particular autoimmune disease. The immune system dysregulation is involved in heart attacks and strokes and cancer and dementia and Alzheimer's, you name it, it plays a part in all this stuff. And so I started seeing a lot of people with autoimmune disease. But I kept realizing that there's so many people that don't understand that we know where autoimmune disease come from. We can actually reverse it. People get stuck on these medicines that suppress the immune system, increasing the risk of cancer, giving them infections that no amount of antibiotics could prevent them from dying from, it can actually give you a new autoimmune disease. And so there's so many people, and because these meds don't actually fix the root cause, like you kind of mentioned, they just keep getting worse and worse, including they get a second autoimmune and a third and a fourth and a fifth. And I can't tell you the number of women in their 20s that I've seen with 6 autoimmune diseases, the number of 8-year-olds with like 3 to 4 autoimmune diseases. It's absolutely crazy. And so I said, okay, somebody's got to change the way autoimmune disease is dealt with worldwide. Now, that also kind of is like, well, changing the way that any chronic health issue is dealt with because they're all connected. And ultimately have somebody in every community that knows how to do this. So that we can help children and adults with all these health issues. And ideally, as you suggest, well, we can educate people so that actually we optimize their epigenetics before they even have children, or we optimize a child's epigenetics before they get 19. So we are actually, preventing all this stuff even before it happens. But then people also know that once it happens, we can turn the whole thing around. And then you don't even need these medicines that kind of put a bandage on a few symptoms for a short period of time, but everything just keeps going haywire, including they help create new problems.
Yeah, that is such a powerful mission, Dr. David, because it is such a needed thing. I know, especially from the US, with all the information pouring out at the moment with the statistics, which everyone's blown away by. But a lot of us who have been working with people and children. So my background's as a speech language pathologist, working with children with autism, and the amount of kids that would come in and I'm like, their liver's not okay. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you've got them on all this medication. I can feel, because that's one of my gifts, but I'm like, I can feel their liver isn't functioning. They're showing like signs of like liver's not being okay. Oh, no, 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 no. And I'm like, and it's just these little 4 5-year-olds who are on that much medication already. And it really concerns me because I'm like, if your liver's already struggling now and you're 4 or 5, what's it going to look like when you stay on this medication for another 6 years, 10 years, however long you stay in this cycle? And a lot of parents too don't realize how much it takes to detox that medication out of the child's system once you get them off it too. So do you find that when you meet the little humans or you even meet the adults, does it take a long time to get the detox out whilst you're working on the autoimmune? I'd imagine it'd be like layers, right?
Oh, it is. You're absolutely right. One of this kind of multi-generational things is they did this lovely study a few years ago where they said, okay, so environmental toxins, they're creating such issues. Now, is this something that we accumulate after we're born, or do we actually have it when we're born? And so what they did is they said, okay, there's tens of thousands. Now, this is back when there was actually tens of thousands of environmental toxins. Now we're over 100,000, right? So they said, okay, so all these newborns, we're going to check the umbilical cord blood at birth, and we're going to test for 400 different environmental toxins, and we're going to see if any of them are in kids at birth. Is this something that's passed through the mom to the baby, or is it something they accumulate later? Well, of the 400, the 200 they tested for, on average, the kids had 100 out of the 200. Every kid had lead, mercury, flame retardants, pesticides, herbicides. They tested for like 30 different pesticides, 30 different herbicides, and at least half of each was in the kids, and every one of them had already been found to be a cancer-causing agent. And so they go like, oh my gosh, this is really bad because every kid is born super toxic now. But they also said, geez, we only checked for a couple hundred. If we would have checked for 1,000, we're sure we would have found a whole lot more kind of a kid. And so this is where, we have such an epidemic of like neurologic issues of childhood and health issues in general. Because like if it's not autism, well, it's developmental delay. Well, if it's not those, it's ADD, ADHD. Well, if it's not that, it's anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, migraines and seizures. It's
Emotional
like,
regulation. Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's such a terrible place. And so we can definitely get rid of these toxins, but it's so challenging. And what I tend to find when it comes to brain related things, it is the perception that if we have a brain thing, that's just who we are. So like I use an example, I see somebody come in and they say, I'm just a depressed person. I've always been depressed ever since I'm a kid. Everybody in my family is depressed. We're just a family of depressed people. That's just who we are. And of course, that's not ever going to change. Well, then I say, well, that's not how it works. Let me give you an example. Okay, so you come in and see me and you say, I have right knee pain. I've always had right knee pain. I'm just a right knee pain person. That's just who I've always been. Everybody in my family is a right knee pain people. That's just who we are. And you go, well, that's so silly. Nobody would say they're a family of right knee pain people. Nobody's inherently a right knee pain person. But you hear that all the time about brain stuff. Whereas depression,
Mm,
anxiety, or even like autism, well, that's a brain thing. That's just inherently who the person is. Okay. And they're always going to be that person. Now we can optimize their function. Let's send them to speech language pathology. Let's do this other stuff and we'll optimize their skills. But I'm like, well, no, that's not inherently who they are. That's just a brain thing. Right. And this, as it turns out, 70% of it is one particular autoimmune disease that I think is a fascinating autoimmune disease. But just like somebody has right knee pain, we can probably figure out a way to get rid of the right knee pain, find out why you have and get rid of it. It's the same thing with all this brain stuff. And I tend to find that the brain always gets dragged into whatever mess is going on. Doesn't matter what is really going on in the system. Eventually, the brain gets dragged in. So, so many people have. I got a lot of brain fog. My brain concentration is not what it used to be. My mood's not what it used to be. I'm more anxious than I used to be. All these kind of brainy things, whether it's children or adults. But then you fix the system as a whole. These brain things get better, including, kind of to your point. The brain is really sensitive to toxicity. Um,
mm.
uh, and so
Yeah.
that's part of how the brain gets dragged into everything as well.
Yeah, and I know, and it's nice that people are starting to acknowledge, well, I find it's nice that the gut has such a big impact on what's happening with the brain. Because, for years people were saying, well, nothing can cross the blood brain barrier. And it's like, actually, no, it can. How do you think it's actually getting in there? And, because I've had a lot of clients and they'll change diet or they'll do work on the kid's gut bacteria or whatever it might be, and they'll start speaking or they'll have a massive shift in behavior. Or I had one client in particular, they found out he was very sensitive to gluten. And when they took the gluten out of his diet, he stopped having incontinence problems, his behavior improved, and all these other things. And I'm not saying that, if anyone's listening, as a blanket approach, because everyone's got a unique epigenetic makeup, which makes it you need to have a very tailored approach for whatever your system needs to help address those underlying causes.
Yeah, and that's such a good point. There's actually a video if people are interested in watching called "A 2-Year-Old's Story of Celiac Disease: So Much More Than Gluten Free." So, like what you said is, hey, you get this gluten out. Wow, what a profound change. Well, this story is about a child who I saw clinically, and the video is done by the child's mother. And so, right from the get go, the child had lots of neurologic things, a lot of gut stuff, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And at age 14 months, they took him to a major pediatric hospital, and they said, "Oh, well, you have celiac disease. You get rid of the gluten, you're going to be great." Well, they got rid of the wheat and the gluten, and he wasn't great, and he just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Well, then by 28 months of age, they took him back to the same pediatric hospital, and they said, "Well, sorry to tell you, he's got tremendous autism, and there's nothing we can really do about it." So when they presented to me at 28 months of age, the main issue that they were having is about 10 to 14 times a day, the child would have these, what the parents call fits, where he tried to smash his head on the floor or the wall. And the parents would try to
Mm,
restrain him for his own benefit. And he tried to scratch their eyes out till they came in with scratches all over. And so, uh, oftentimes it's like, okay, so you got to get rid of the foods that are bugging you, but you also got to get rid of the reason why the foods are bugging you. Otherwise, that why just keeps pushing you in the wrong direction. So they got rid of the wheat and gluten is celiac, but then he had sort of like everything that drove the food sensitivity was still driving all this other kind of stuff. But then when you address that a year later, he was perfectly great. And I think the mom really kind of summed it up in a beautiful way. Um, Whenever I watched the video tons of times, I get teary every time. But when she kind of says, "Well, that my child back then, that was not my child. That was really my child with just really messed up biology, really messed up chemistry in the system. But when you fix all that, now my child, happy-go-lucky, fun, loving child, that's my real child. But his biochemistry has been all corrected. It was a mess before, and he felt like a mess."
yeah. And, often when I see kids who bang their head like that, I actually think they must be in so much pain. And it sounds really weird, but it's almost like, when you get those splitting headaches and they're so bad, you just feel like banging your head to try and get some relief and to shift it. That's what I always saw when I was working with these little humans, because I was like, there's more going on than what they can say. And because I could tune in with their energy, I'm like, like there's something else going on. You need to go see. Like I was this clinician that would send them to the naturopath or the chiropractor or all these other places, and the parents would look at me, and I'm like, oh, the system's out of alignment, or this is going on, or this is going on, and because I didn't have a Dr. David to send them to, I want some Dr. Davids to send clients to.
I do see children and adults currently spanning 23 time zones around the world. So I actually have clients from Australia, New Zealand, all over the place, because this is really a worldwide issue. It's not just
Yes.
near my neighborhood. It's like, oh my goodness, this is an epidemic, including um, uh, a couple of weeks ago, I did another podcast and we were talking about autism, and I actually know what it was. I was lecturing to nurse practitioner students at Montana State University in the United States, and I did a couple of different slideshows, and I had this one. It's a couple of years old, and I talked about the statistics of autism, and I was saying things like, well, in North America, it's 1 in 64, worldwide 1 in 62. 2 years ago. But then before I talked to him, I go, okay, what's the new one? Well, now it's like up to 1 in 30 in North America. And
Mm,
we're outside the United
mm.
States is 1 in 160, 1 out of 1 every 640. Now the very best country out of the United States is Sweden, and they're at 1 in 100. And they're the best country. And that's the best we can get. And
So
it's just like
exciting.
this huge epidemic kind of a thing. And um,
Yeah.
boy,
Yeah, I was going to add to that because when I started, because I was nearly a speech language pathologist for 2 decades. But when I started, it was such a rare thing. It was like 1 in 1,000 or something like that. And then as I increased my caseload, I just kept getting more and more to the point that my whole caseload were children with autism spectrum disorder. And they used to just walk in my door, and my clients would say I had autism dart. Like I just know as soon as they walk in the door, because I could just see it or feel it, or I just knew. And I'd always have this conversation with parents. I was always the newsbreaker. Like, okay, you're gonna hate me, but we need to start looking into this because this is what's going on. And I go, and I know you're going to go home and Google because that's what you're going to do. I say not to Google because you're going to get the worst case scenario. But then when you come back, you'll hate me a little bit less because someone had to tell you. And that's exactly what happened every single time. And they're like, yeah, we hated you. And then we were okay with you. But it was just really concerning, like working in this profession and watching how much it was increasing and the amount of medications a lot of these children were getting put on, especially they would go and go, oh, they've got ADHD. And I'm like, no, they're just not regulated. But, I guess from a epigenetic standpoint, it's like, what is going on underneath all of that to create that expression with through autism or through ADHD or whatever label it is. So I guess if people were coming to work with you, Dr. David, or children in particular, kind of what could they expect of like a process?
well, we always like to find the root cause. Um,
Yeah.
and I love testing if we can do it. I say kind of, well, let's test and not guess, because there's actually tests out there that you can really pinpoint, what these causes. So we know what kind of the causes are. And so things like infections that drive chronic health issues need to be cleared. The stress hormone cortisol is an issue. The guts become so disrupted. There's food sensitivities, hormone imbalances and deficiencies in children. Thyroid's a big one there. Epigenetics, toxicity. You put all these things together. You go, okay, so this is what's causing it. So as a medical doctor, I say, well, let's test. Let's do a blood test, and we're going to look for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, vitamin deficiencies. We'll find the infections that are driving chronic disease. Hey, let's do a digestive stool analysis. Let's look at the gut. Poop, take a couple samples, mail it off. Boy, does that give you some great information. Eventually, we do like a urine test. Okay, here's a chelating agent. Take it, collect your urine for 6 hours. Let's look for things like mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic, all these kind of things. And so we do these testing. And so I might say, well, there's vitamin deficiencies in this situation. The guts become so disrupted, you can't absorb nutrients. Well, which ones? It could be zinc, but it might not be. And if you take zinc, it might totally waste your time. Maybe it's something different like B vitamins, these kind of things. Um, oh, the gut's off. Well, exactly how it's off. Well, let's do the poop test. We'll figure out exactly what's going on and exactly what we need to do to address it. And so I love doing that stuff because we can be very specific. We don't waste people's time by doing things they don't need. And then we go, okay, let's do this for 3 months. We'll retest. Okay, how you feeling, of course, but did we fix what we need to fix, or do we need to tweak things? And this is where you can really individualize the treatments for each individual, because you're really basing it on exactly sort of what you find from these neat testing. And they tend to be tests that can be really run just about anywhere in the world. Sometimes it's really goofy because of the medical system in the country. It can be very much a challenge. Like in Canada, it is an absolute incredible challenge to get any blood work done. Oh my gosh, it's like pulling teeth. You'd think it would be different. Whereas in other countries like Australia, it tends to be a lot easier sometimes,
Yeah. You just
including
rock
the
up. Yeah.
practitioners. Yeah, in the United States, you can actually order this stuff online yourself. You can go online and order it yourself. You pay for it yourself. The company gives you a requisition. You take it to a blood draw company. They draw your blood and give you the results. And it's like, oh, that is so easy. That is so nice.
That is so easy.
Like
Whereas
in my book,
Australia,
I
it's
say, if you
a
can
little
do
bit
this, and
longer. Yeah.
these are the tests you want to run. You can run them yourself. This is actually a couple of companies that do it. And then this is how you interpret your results. This is what you do based on the interpretation of the results. This is when you retest. This is what you do if you need to change how you're doing, if it didn't get fixed. This is what you do if it did get fixed. This is when you start pulling back on the things you're doing because you don't need that anymore. Your body's actually doing the work itself. It can be a real, kind of lovely, methodical kind of way to get this all turned around.
Yeah, that makes it so easy. Like I'm still blown away with how easy that is because here it's like you have to go to the doctor and then you get the referral, which is a bit easier than, like you said, Canada. And then you go to the pathology place and then you get all the tests done and then you got to go back to the doctor to get the results and then you can keep going from there. But like to just be able to tap into this places that have created a service essentially that fills the needs of that. That's amazing. Gosh.
Like in the stool test that we love to do, it's not available in the Middle East, but people will go, "Hey, I got a cousin in Germany, uh, and they got the poop test. They mailed it to us. My child did it. We mailed it back to Germany. They mailed it on, and hey, we got the result."
Oh my goodness. I just had this image of just poo being transported, but obviously they test and then put the test results in there. But I was like, imagine opening your mail and there's poo in there. But anyway.
Well, like with the children I see, let's say like in person, let's say in the United States, the child's there, the parents there, and I go, okay, we got to do a poop test. We're going to have you poop in a cup, and then your poop gets to go on vacation. Your poop's going to get sent to North Carolina. It gets to go to the mountains of North Carolina. And the kid's like, oh, my poop gets to travel. Oh, lovely.
Kids love talking about poo. If anyone's listening, honestly, like I bought these stickers once and they were all like little poo emojis and they were like all different, doing different things. Like there was a poo in a bath and a poo throwing up and a sick poo. Anyway, there were all these crazy poos. And my husband went, oh, which kids are going to like that? Within 2 weeks, I had to go buy more because every kid wanted the poo emojis. And it didn't matter if it was a boy or a girl. They were just all like, oh my gosh, look at the poos. We want the poos. And it's just, it's almost normalizing it too, because a lot of time we don't talk about that and how our poo can have so much information in it. And, just being observant of your own poo sounds really weird, can give you clues into what's going on as well in your gut, like you were saying. And, if you're a person who is going through their own autoimmune disease, that could be something possibly you start to do while they're finding someone like yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in my book, I kind of tell you how to interpret the results that you just got and what to do about it. Yeah. Yeah. Kids they don't mind talking about this stuff at all. Adults get kind of grossed out sometimes, but kids, they love this.
It's fun. You just have to, it's just part of being a body. Like, they've written all these books now, like whose poop is it? And, everybody poops. And because, it's just fun and kids love it. So tell us a little bit about your book, Dr. David.
So my book's called The Nurse Practitioner's Guide to Autoimmune Medicine, Reversing and Preventing All Autoimmune Disease. And even though the name of nurse practitioner is in it, truly this is a book for any medical person, but also I wrote it in a way that really truly is for even non-medical people. Now, I wrote a textbook chapter about managing pain in the presence of autoimmune disease. And in a textbook, every sentence has to have a scientific reference. And so in the chapter, even though it's kind of a small one, 150 different references. Now, in the book, even though it's for medical people, but also non-medical people, I think it's so important that people understand that information I share is always based on the science. And so in my book, I threw in 100 different scientific references so people understand. And this is the same thing I do like with my YouTube videos. I'll say, hey, look what this article in the journal of so-and-so says about this topic. And so this is not somebody's opinion. This is just a science. And we're very fortunate that there's been an explosion of medical knowledge about chronic disease, autoimmune disease, et cetera. And so if somebody says, well, there's probably, that's probably not got any scientific references. It's like, well, there's probably about 10,000 by now, kind of a thing. It's like, no, if it's something that you have a question about, there is a scientific reference and probably dozens, if not hundreds. But people just don't know the science, including most medical professionals. If you walk up and say, well, what about this? And they go like, yeah, no, there's no science behind that. It's like, well, no, they just haven't done their due diligence, done their homework. It'll probably take them about 2 minutes to get like 1,000 articles popped up, kind of a thing. A little longer to read them, of course, but no, this is really the science behind chronic health issues. It's just that most people still to this day don't know the science.
Yeah, and I guess that's why being curious and open is always such a powerful thing, right? Like if someone asked you that and you were like, huh, maybe there is something on that, that's where you go Google. And, and I know you said like there could be 1,000 articles show up, but then you could just put that search result into AI and go, hey, can you summarize all the findings? And it will do it for you, because that's we have that ability and that tool at our disposal now. But at the same time, it's about being open and, I stepped out of the traditional medical system years ago because I would get so frustrated. I remember from my experience, I had a foot cramp and it was so bad, like my foot would cease like that in the middle of the night. And I went to the doctor because I'm like, I don't know what else to do at this point. And he's like, oh, you must have arthritis, and put me on trial arthritis drugs. And I looked at them and I went, no. And then he also sent me for an x-ray for a muscle spasm. So I'm there going, there's so much that doesn't add up and work here. I'm very concerned. And then I was going to an acupuncturist and he's like, why didn't you talk to me first? And he just puts this needle in and it releases my whole foot spasm, right? But then that started me on a journey of questioning things. And I started to go to biomedical practices to learn more about autism as well, because these amazing doctors like yourself were there speaking. And then I realized they were presenting about different deficiencies and they presented about magnesium. And I went, oh my goodness, that is me. Like I had every single symptom. And then I went and found a naturopath. And as soon as I had that magnesium in my system, the cramping stopped, my bowel movements were better, all these things that I struggle with my whole life. And it was another like, oh, my mum's got that. My mum's got the twitchy calves. And like it was a generational thing. But at the same time, I'm like, no, like there must be something more. And all I did was take ionic magnesium plus have stuff to like make my gut receptive as well. But it was that one thing that changed my whole perspective on there's always something underneath causing everything else. So I hope everyone
And
has those.
unfortunately, if you like went to a medical doctor and said, I got a cramp, I think I got a magnesium deficiency, they're going to go, oh, geez, like that. But like if you Google it, through the medical search engines, there's like 10,000 articles about magnesium's impact on every cell in the body. I mean, it's truly, tons of information. It's just that that's not what we get taught in traditional training. That's not what we learn when we do our continuing medical education stuff. It's definitely there. People need to know it. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and I love that you said that they just don't know it yet. And I guess that's where, like, anyone listening to this, just always be curious and ask questions, and then research and do your due diligence and find people that, especially as a mum, we get like instincts that there's something more. And, often that gets shut down. I've worked with so many parents who get that shut down. You're smiling because I think it's happened for you too. But But, as a mum, we get these instincts like, no, there's something more, there's something more, there's something more going on here. And, I feel like what your bigger mission is about putting people like yourself, Dr. David, in every state or across the world and having access to it, because you are the person people are looking for, because you would honor those, okay, what's going on with your kid? And you would actually honor the feeling that they're having because it's clues, right, to looking for the cause.
Absolutely. And I tell the clients I see things like, they kind of say what we spend a lot of time talking. I want to hear what they have to say, of course, right? And so, well, I'll say something like, well, nobody knows you better than you know yourself. So if you have this gut that you think something's going on, I'm going to listen. Okay. It's the same thing like you said. Well, nobody knows your child better than you know your child. So if you have a real sense that you think this is probably something that's important to know and to do, I'm going to listen for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And as we start to finish our time together, I could sit here and pick your brain all day. But as we start to finish our time together, I ask the guests that come on the show, Dr. David, if they could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
Well, I would like people to know that the body is so great at healing that if you have a chronic health issue and you probably are told you're going to have it forever, that is not the case. We know where chronic health issues come from. We know how to reverse them. You don't have to be stuck with it. I use it as an example sometimes where you're walking around the house in bare feet and you kick a chair leg and it hurts like crazy. You're hopping around in terrible toe pain. Well, inherently, people have such a confidence and ability to heal. They're not thinking, oh, great, I'm going to have this terrible toe pain for the next 20 years. Of course, you're not, right? But then we get these chronic health issues. It's like, well, I'm going to have it forever. There's nothing you can do. I'm like, no, no, no. Your body is so smart. If it has not fixed something, like you kicked your toe and you had terrible toe pain, it fixes it in 2 minutes. Well, if you have a terrible chronic health issue, something's gotten in the way of the healing process. Your body knows how to fix this. Your body's trying to fix this, but something's gotten in the way. All we got to do is get that something out of the way. And we could be talking 70, 80 years you've been having this thing. You get it out of the way, the body goes, hot dog, I've been waiting this whole time. I know how to fix this. I've been waiting to fix it. Now I have my opportunity. And the chronic health issue can start backing up and reverse and actually go away.
Yeah. So I want to say magical, but it is like we forget that our body is designed to self-heal. Exactly like you said. You just
Chill.
have to find the blocks. You have to find and sometimes it can be an emotional thing, sometimes it can be a mental health thing, but then sometimes the mental health thing can come from the gut imbalance, which then leads to a whole, array of things too.
Yeah. And everybody's different on what that thing is that has to get out of the way. But the science is very clear, the different things that might be in the way. And we probably have an option to get it out of the way, no matter what it might be.
Yeah, which is amazing. And if people want to find you or work with you, Dr. David, where can they check you out?
So my website is drdavidbilstrom.com, dr like a doctor. And from there, we have courses for non-medical people, medical people. We really want to educate people on why people get this stuff and then how they can make it go away, including on my website. There's a free online educational email course. That's 7 emails. You get one a day for 7 days. You can go through them as fast or slow as you want. Each one's only about a 6 to 8 minute read, but each one takes a real deep dive into why this stuff happens so that you can now know, well, why am I not feeling well? But you also now have some tools that you can use to start reversing the process, no matter how long you've had it, whether you're a child or adult. Now, I'm always available if people need my help. I'd love people to know so much about this that they can do a lot of it themselves.
Yeah, which is amazing. Well, thank you. I will make sure, Dr. David, to include all of that in the show notes so that people come and find you and get onto your mailing list so they can start to be curious about how to shift their own health and reclaim their power there too.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for happening. Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.